Good day, everyone. We are the Sulfur Cycle presenter, together with my groupmates, Rimasog, Habagat, Mangayan, and Girls Trolley, Silahis Wiwana. All living things require sulfur in order to make protein. Sulfur cycle is circulation of sulfur in various forms through nature. Sulfur occurs in all living matter as a component of a certain amino acids. It is abundant in the soil and proteins and through a series of microbial transformations. Ends up as sulfates usable by plants. Now, let's take a look at how sulfur cycles itself around the Earth. First, sulfur reserves are found in the lithosphere, and we all know that lithosphere is the outer mantle of the solid Earth, occurring in the Earth's crust and the soil, example, minerals, organic matter, air, and water. And the lithosphere and are released by weathering. In addition, hydrogen sulfide and sulfur dioxide gas is released into the atmosphere by volcanic eruption, then hot spring and the decay of biological material in swamps and bogs. And marine algae produce dimethyl sulfide that enters the atmosphere as a tiny droplets.
Sulfur dioxide gas also forms when dimethyl sulfide reacts with oxygen gas. The burning of fossil fuel also releases sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. As the sulfur dioxide releases into the atmosphere, it reacts with the oxygen in the atmosphere and it creates sulfur dioxide. The sulfur dioxide, it reacts with water in the atmosphere to produce sulfuric acid.
So now, before I go through or proceed with the next step of the cycle, I will just let you know what is a sulfur trioxide. Since you have encountered it in the step before me, and you will then encounter it in the step that I will be discussing, or in the next process that I will be discussing in the sulfur cycle. So a sulfur trioxide is a colorless to white crystalline solid which can also exist as a gas or a liquid. So in sulfur cycle, the trioxide reacts with the ammonia, as you can see here in the photo, in the atmosphere to produce sulfate salt. And then the sulfuric acid in the sulfate salt will fall to the earth or to the soil by precipitation, just like a rainfall. So as it falls to the earth, it will then go with the soil. So the soil will absorb these sulfate salts. So as the soil absorbs the sulfate salt, the plants will then absorb the sulfur by absorbing the sulfate salt that is being absorbed by the soil. So animals in return here will get the sulfur by eating the plants that also absorb the sulfur from the soil. And then the animals will release the sulfur when it decay or when they decay.
Okay, good morning once again, everyone. No, to continue on explaining about this cycle, which is the sulfur cycle. No, so as a animal decay, they release sulfate salts into hydrogen sulfide. So as you can see, na ay bacteria, diba? So there are two types of bacteria, the anaerobic bacteria and aerobic bacteria, where anaerobic bacteria breaks down the hydrogen sulfide into sulfur gas, and aerobic bacteria convert the sulfur into sulfate salts, which again the plants or animals take it, and then like any other cycle, no, just it is just keeping around and around. So mao to siya ang sulfur cycle. No, so for recap, no, so sulfur is essential element for the micromolecules of living organisms. So there are naay mga steps sa sulfur cycle. So first is ang decomposition and waste product of the animals or in plants. So it contains sulfur. So mo ni diri dani. So it contains sulfur in the form of organic compounds and decomposer microorganism break downs these organic compounds during the process of decomposition. And then this breakdown releases sulfur containing compounds, including the amino acids uh, from that from proteins. Yeah, amino acids from proteins. Then the sulfates gets reduced to hydrogen sulfide by the action of some bacteria, which example niya is example sa mga bacteria is the Desulfotomycalum bacteria. So mo na siya ang kani. Then pagkahuman, so sulfur in the atmosphere, can you hear sulfate in the atmosphere, no? It mostly present in the form of sulfate, ang sulfur. No, so most of the sulfate in the atmosphere arises from the human activity like fossil fuel combustion here or factories, kani siya. Then mga natural processes like volcanic eruptions kay here mao po na siya ang nakaplay po siya og essential role in increasing the sulfate concentration in the atmosphere. So once sulfur is exposed in the air, no, to the air, so it combines with oxygen and became sulfate. So bantog na mo siya og sulfate, which is mm. Then plants and microbes assimilate sulfate. So followed by the hydrogen sulfide. So primary source of hydrogen sulfide, no, in the atmosphere is the gas released by microbial action on the decaying living organism. So the microbe present both in terrestrial and the aquatic habitats, decompose organic and inorganic forms of aerobically. So the aerobic decomposition result in the release of hydrogen sulfide, which then oxidize in the air to form sulfate. So by the action of certain bacteria such as the Desulfovibrio desulfuricans, the sulfates in the soil are reduced back to hydrogen sulfide. So the reduction occurs in two steps. First, sulfate are converts into sulfides, and secondly, sulfides are further reduced by to hydrogen sulfide. So during the sulfate reduction, so the hydrogen sulfide that is produced is released into the atmosphere. So the next step is in the biosphere. So sulfur interns in the biosphere in two ways. So from the atmosphere, first kay ang rock weathering, and then the second kay ang sulfur eventually makes its way to the soil and the ocean in the form of rainfall. So muna ang weight deposition. So ang sulfate na dayon here na dayon siya sa water ug napo siya sa land. And then ang plant and animal i-uptake niya ang sulfur kay magkaon man na sila. Then when animals consumes plants, so the sulfur is moved through the food chain and released when organisms die and undergo decomposing processes, converting the sulfate into sulfides so they can be returned back to the atmosphere. So mao na siya ang sulfur cycle. So hope na namoy nasabtan sa amo ang gi-explain here about sa sulfur cycle. So thank you sa inyong pagpaminaw. Bye!